Okay, this is the inspection and repair of Jim Doerr's powered parachute, and it's an annual inspection. And of course, the first thing we have to do, it says, is thoroughly clean the aircraft, and we will do that. We have a whole inspection list here that we'll go through. Plus, Jim and I have talked about doing these other things also, which is make the, redo the gas cap and move the seats and grease the carbs, and we're going to do all that and look at the strobe. So right now I'm going to show you exactly where we're at on the aircraft. Okay, Jim, I put a like a worm clamp. I got to quit shaking it. Put a worm clamp around the your gas cap, and also put in a rubber seal, and because you already have a vent. Vent goes up here and vents out, so you already have a vent. And so you don't need it venting through the cap. So Jim, I went through your strobe here and kind of jumpered it and went up to the battery and found that it's not actually the switch or anything. It is in the strobe itself. What I found on the strobe was that it had a loose wire, as you can see, but I connected the wire and still it doesn't work. So I think it's in this bulb right here. It's probably burned out. And you can probably call these people up here and order a new bulb. And I'll put the switch back and everything so that actually you can turn the switch on from down below. Okay, now Jim, on your order box here, you ordered a replacement filter. But this is a K&M filter. You never really have to replace them. You just have to clean them. And I've already done this, but I'll go through it again just to show you how we just kind of clean it up and make it new again. Also, you ordered a, I guess, I don't know where this came from, but it's an oil, looks like an oil filter, but that's for a 4-cycle. You have a 2-cycle. So if you can get these 2 parts back and get your money back, you'd be better off. We're going to use this part right here to clean, and we're just going to redo the air filter again. And I've already done this once, but I'm going to do it again just so we can get it on film and show you. We're going to take the cleaner, which is this job right here, and we're just going to spray it real heavily on that air filter. And then we're going to clean it off with hot water. I'll show you that as we go along. I've sprayed this real heavily with the cleaner, and now we're going to let it set for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll use hot water to clean it off. Okay, time's up. Now we're just going to get some hot water. Really hot as we can get it. And then just rinse this little filter off, and you can see it's really kind of clean. See how much cleaner it looks. And you should do that. Oh man, I do it. You may have to do it 2 or 3 times a year. And the reason is that it collects a lot of dirt out in the open, and so you need to kind of keep this thing clean as much as you can. If the red is gone from it, because we're going to spray some of that red oil on it. And if the red is gone from it, then you need to redo it again. Okay, Jim, once we have rinsed this off and cleaned it up, we're going to set it outside or in the garage, wherever you need. And it needs to really dry out good before we spray any of this oil, air oil filter on it. Okay? Okay, Jim, our next task is to change spark plugs. And we're going to gap these at, let me see if I can get the gap in here. It's hard to make out. Anyway, it's 20 thousandths. Okay, so then we're gonna gap each plug. Jim, these plugs are pretty much standard. You can buy them at an automotive shop also, automotive store, and just gap them at 20 thousandths, and then they usually have a kind of a loose top. These are kind of a solid top, but what you do is just put a little Loctite on the top and stick them on in. There's no use paying that much money to have them shipped from Bear Perkins or something. And also on spark plugs, anything metal that's going into aluminum thread, I always put a little drop of oil on them, so it never goes in dry. Just the way I do things. Okay, we're removing the spark plugs from the head, and I've already removed 4, and we're going to kind of inspect those for brown inside, and it really looks good. That's perfect. That's exactly what you want. So we'll take the other ones out. And when we have these out, we're going to do a little cold compression check. That's part of our inspection process. Okay, we have our compression checker hooked up, and we're just going to turn it over about, maybe 4 or 5 turns. And the reason is we're going to check the compression, and then we can compare it to next year. We have nothing to compare it to now, but next year we can compare the two. Okay, let's turn this thing over a couple of times. Good enough. Okay, so our compression is setting right about 80, and we're just going to write that in your logbook. I mean, not logbook, but on your form. Okay, spark plugs have been changed and compression checked on both cylinders at 85. Okay, another inspection that we really should do, and it's not on that checklist, but we need to change the gear oil. Once a year we need to change that gear oil. This is the gearbox, so we need to pull off the bottom here, change the gear oil. We're going to fill it from the top up here, and we're going to let it weep out this right there. We're going to let it weep out that hole, and I'll show you as I go along how to do that. Also, I should make a note here. I don't know who did this last time, but they do have it kind of wired. This should be also wired up here to this little collar, so you need it wired here. And the bottom, which is really critical, has no wire on it at all. This should be wired right to this little hole right here, and it has a hole through the nut. The bolt here. So this is really critical and should have been wired, but is not. So we'll do that as we go along. Okay, Jim, as I'm removing this, I'm noticing there's not a washer. This should have a washer. I don't see a washer on here. I'll have to get your washer, but you need a little washer on this so that the pressure doesn't come out through the top of this breather hole. All right, to remove this takes a 17-inch, number 17 metric wrench. And what we're looking for, Jim, is any kind of deposits. We need to get all that this is a little magnetic part inside of this drain plug. And we need to get all that out. It does have a washer, but your air vent did not. So we'll get you a copper washer for that one. I think I have some in stock. Alrighty, so we'll clean this up. It looks pretty clean. So, I don't know how long it's been there, but it doesn't look bad at all. But now we've changed it, and it'll be good for at least a year. Okay, this is really clean now. You can almost eat off of it. And I did find a copper washer in stock that I'm going to place on top of your air breather tube. So that'll keep that from maybe splashing any oil out of it. Our next thing that we have to do is cut the wire off of your fill tube, and then we'll reconnect that and let it weep out of here, and I'll show you how that does, Jim. Okay, we've got the wire off, and the one we're going to remove is the bottom one. We don't have to remove that top one, but we just want to fill it up to where it weeps out of this hole, and then we slap it back on again. And I'll kind of show you how that works. This got to have a washer on it. I hope it does. Oh, shucks. This one's gone too. I wonder who in the heck. Dang. Okay, I'll get you another washer, Jim. Okay, we're going to fill this with 80-90. And I've already put some in. I'm just putting more. Until it actually kind of weeps out of this hole right here. You'll see it kind of start to run out of the hole. I'll then put the screw in once it starts out of the hole. Well, wait a minute. Okay, now you can kind of see it just running out of this hole. Well, CPS recommends that you don't let it just stop. You go ahead and let it run a little bit, and then we just want it to weep a little bit, and then we're just going to go ahead and put the, well, let's let it run loose a little bit more, and then we'll just put this screw in. And that looks pretty good right now, because we don't want to, we can let it run a little bit. Some people say, oh, let it go until it all dries up, but CPS really recommends that you just kind of let it run a little bit and then go ahead and put the screw in, even though there's some oil running out. Okay, what I'm going to do now is just kind of put some wire between the two. And we're going to kind of do it right here, so that you know, so like safety wire, so it doesn't come apart on us. And this thing, you just kind of pull it together until you kind of see it comes. Take it off. Put it through the second one. Do the same thing. I like to keep it right there. There we go. We're going to cut it off right about here. And then we're going to kind of, so nobody gets cut on the thing or anything, we just want to bend it out of the way. So nobody even gets near it, because it's got little sharp edges on it. And then we're going to do the top and the bottom. Completed that. We've completed this with our wiring. And we have a wire, safety wire on that, and we've also safety wired the bottom, which should have been done. And that's good for right now until you change it next time. Okay, Jim, you and I talked about changing these bolts, and I've replaced them with bolts and taken out the little slider. I don't know what the hell you'd even call them, but anyway, I replaced both sides with bolts, and I'll put these in your bag of parts. Okay, one other thing I like to do every year, Jim, is I put lithium grease on your carburetor boots. And the reason for that is this is rubber, and the darn things will dry out and crack on you. So you need to do that about once a year. I wouldn't do it every 6 months, but you'll see how it dries out and kind of starts cracking. And then you have to replace them. Heck, they're $23, $24 each. So just put some grease on them. Okay, another inspection process is we remove the bolts off the manifold, exhaust manifold, and we look with the light right up into the pistons, and you can see if there's any scratches on the pistons at all. See if I can move this around so you can see a little bit, but you can really see the pistons up there. In fact, I don't know if I can move it or not for you. Nah, you're not gonna be able to see it, but visually you can look, and if there's any scratches on the pistons at all, you can see if there's any kind of damage to them, if you know the rings are starting to wear or whatever, and these really look good. So let's see if I can get up in there. Anyway, that's part of your inspection, is to remove that and look at the pistons. There's the rings up there you can see, and what you're looking for is really deep scratches on the sides, which we don't have any at all, and these look pretty good. So what we're going to do is we use the same gaskets, and what we're going to do is put some high temp sealer on here, high temp silicone, and just put them back all together, and we're going to torque it down to 192 inch-pounds. I forgot one thing, Jim. Remember, again, I got this little quirk thing about me. This is the exhaust bolts, and we're going to kind of put a little dab of oil on each one, because we don't want to go into aluminum block dry, because it will strip out the threads. Okay, we're going to torque these down. There's 4 of them here. We're going to torque these bolts down to 192 inch-pounds. And when you hear it click, if you have a clicker torque wrench, then you've got it at the right torque. Okay, we're back to the air filter. We're going to go ahead and spray the air filter oil, but we don't want to saturate. We just want to put it on here about like that. But you don't want to really saturate it too much, and then we'll wipe it off again. Let me get the other side, and then we'll just let it set. Good. And this will stay on the air filter for quite a while, so we can kind of judge if the thing gets dirty or not by just if it's still red, if I don't spray all over the sink. Anyway, I'll